Hello you plonkers, and welcome back today to another video on the Drewzy channel. We've swung the AFL YouTuber table around. It was on Caden's side and now it's on my side. It's my turn to host the boys. We've got, reigning out of South Australia, Anthony ThePear Alessiani. Hello, say hello.
Hello, fellow plonkers. Good to be back on the round table. I'm looking forward to what's in store for this very professional outfit.
We've got Caden reigning from Geelong in Victoria. Hello, come through the intercoms if you can hear me. Hello.
G'day Drewzy, when you said raining, I thought you were going to say premiers, because that's just where we're at the moment, so keen to rip in and talk all things football.
And we've also got the recent retiree, Jesse McClure of True Footy. Hello, how's retirement treating you?
Oh, it's good, mate. Yeah, I must admit I was a little bit nervous when you called me up to the stage today, and I was like, should I do some research? And then I thought, oh, thank God it's just a Drewzy video.
It's a bit of the old EJ Witten Legends kind of thing with you at the moment. Getting a call up.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
All right. We'll get into the football before we start just talking absolute nonsense. Where are our clubs at, lads? I'll start with DOS, because you're the top dog at the moment. Pre-season, heading into 2022, your club were premiers last year. Trying to go back-to-back. Where is the club at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they're poised quite well to give the competition another good shake-up this year. I think the list demographic and the injury profile at this point in the season is boding quite well. We touched up North Melbourne in a practice match, and that allowed me to get really excited about our prospects for the season, read a lot into it, and just get absolutely up and about. So I think they're poised quite well, and hopefully it should and could be an exciting year for the boys.
Pre-season definitely counts, by the way. We count pre-season. The biggest game of the year so far for my boys, and we absolutely flogged the Eagles 197 points. So I'm taking that to the bank, lad. Jesse,
hey,
we did absolutely pummel you, but you weren't having it when I called you up and said, my team's better than your team. Why did the Eagles lose by 97 points other than being an inferior side to the Dockers?
Why did they lose a practice game by 100 points? I don't know the answer to that, Drewzy, to be honest. As much as there is to read into it, don't have any analysis for you.
Did you watch the game?
I did watch the game. Yes, I did. As you know.
You're having a bit of an injury crisis at West Coast land at the moment. Who do you have out, and how much of an impact will that have on your season already?
So the most recent ones were Sheed for half a season. Young fella Chess has gone down for like 8 to 10 weeks of the season. Yo could be there for round one. In addition to that, you got guys like Cripps, Allen, and Shuey's in doubt, but he could also be there for round one as well. So we don't really know the extent of some of them, but we do know that the caliber of the players missing is massive. And unfortunately, there's a bit of a midfield concentration there, which is not ideal for a team that didn't have a great midfield last year. So I think it's significant, but I think the first 4 weeks of the season are relatively okay in terms of our fixture. So I haven't, given up hope just yet.
F's in the chat for Chesser. But on the Dockers side, it was great fun to watch, mate. Obviously, it was a scratch match, but you can sort of take out what the game style was, and it was a lot different from what I've seen in previous years as a Dockers fan, where players were scared to pull the trigger. They weren't as aggressive as I'd like. They weren't hungry. They had a full belly already, so they weren't hungry to chase down the ball. And this game was the opposite. Obviously, it's a scratch match, and Jesse says we can't read into it, so I won't read into it and say that we're going to win the flag. But Jordan Clark off half-back just opened up the ground so beautifully for us, just with the old run and spread, the old Christian Salem run and spread. Isn't that right, McDonald?
You need some spread. Need a lot of spread.
Absolutely. Opens up the ground, get the ball into space, and then the defence is vulnerable or something like that. Anyway, Dockers are better than West Coast. D's are on the top. Anthony, where are your pair boys at? Because you lost to Gold Coast, and you can't say that for many teams.
Well, speaking of spread, Zach Butters looked pretty good in a pretty despicable performance by Port Adelaide. I'm not reading too much into it. A lot of fans are already calling for Ken Inkley's sacking. But
oh God,
it's a practice match against Gold Coast. Yeah, we probably went up there expecting to win. That's probably the only thing I'm a bit concerned about is mindset, because that was a problem with the prelim, and we had a mindset issue there and a lack of intensity. So, but that's the only thing I'm concerned about. Other than that, seems to be a lot of players have improved from that lower tier, giving us a a bit more depth. I won't answer any further questions until round 1, I don't think.
You've got a good list demographic. Your age is still very low, so still the prime years of Port Adelaide are to come. Is there any breakout stars that you think will burst out onto the scene this year?
I think there's a couple. And no, it won't be John Butcher, unfortunately, but he will be playing in the Central Magpies team. You got to look at our ruckman. Scotty Lysett's fantastic, but there's a bloke named Sam Hayes who's absolutely going to take the ruck scene by storm at Port Adelaide. I think he's ready in the making. He's a beautiful tap ruckman, can play forward as well, and he's one to watch if you're a fantasy or a super coach player as well, because he's going to provide a lot of depth for Port Adelaide. And the other one as well is Jackson Mead, one that was probably touted from the draft a couple of years ago to actually play some good footy early on. COVID hurt him, had a ruptured spleen in 2021, so he didn't get much game time, and he's had a full preseason, and he looked fantastic in that despicable practice match against the Suns. So they're probably the couple that I'd be looking out for. Zachy Butters as well, we know he's a big name player already, but he's going to have a fantastic season too.
That ruckman will get more game time with Laddams heading to Sydney as well. Dosso, your team has already had the supernova, but is there going to be another explosion, another star emerging from Melbourne in 2022?
Yeah, it's quite interesting when we talk about sort of breakout stars for the Ds, because they sort of showed their face a little bit last year already. Like, I have heard some great things about Tom Sparrow over the pre-season, but he was in our best 22 last year. I found it quite interesting that we were so successful last year without names like Jeddah, Jones, Malcolm, and a few others in the side. And it was just strange that the people that pushed those blokes out were your Jake Bowies and your Tom Sparrows, your James Jordan type. So I'm hearing great things about Tommy Sparrow. We've waxed lyrical about your man from WA coming over to Victoria, Jacob Van Rooyen. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Van Rooyen. That's it.
Van Rooyen, geez. The club keeps putting out some scratch matches and training clips, and he just clunks everything. And he's a big brute of a lad who played at both ends for WA. So I would love to see a little bit of Van Rooyen at some point in the season. But I think all the sort of mail is that Tom Sparrow is ready to grab his footy career by the horns, and he is a bit of a bull. He's a bit of a Jack Viney prototype. So he's one to watch.
If you could Cozzy Pickett or Luke Jackson, big Jacob Van Rooyen, you are in for a treat. I reckon he's like Tom MacDonald if he was actually good. That's the way I'd describe Jacob Van Rooyen. I'm going to chuck out a Freo player here. Sammy Switkowski. I don't know if many people in many fans of the AFL would know who Sam Switkowski is if you don't watch Freo games. Obviously, Freo aren't a big club. People don't really know our players. But Sam Switkowski was ranked elite by Champion Data. So that tells you all you need to know, mate.
I saw a clip of him taking on 15 blokes and running the whole length of the ground and just zigzagging in and out of people and then finishing with a snag. So he's taking the piss.
He has played pretty much his entire career up until late points of last season as like a forward pocketer. But with some injuries and whatnot we had at the end of last year, he ran through the middle. And he's not scared of anything, that little fella. So watch out this year for Sam Switkowski. He's my pick to have a breakout year this year.
So you're looking forward to Switkowski dominating that 4:10 time slot on a Sunday afternoon then?
Yeah, happy days. I think we've actually got a Friday night game and a couple Saturday nights, Anthony. So,
we'll see.
Look out.
We'll see. Fox Footy.
Hopefully you're around on my 21st to come to a Twilight game. And then we can watch Twilight after and have a cuddle.
I'll be having a couple of Switkowskis, that's for sure.
All right, Jester Barn. What's going on at West Coast? Who's going to break out?
Oh, it's just so hard to pick when we're just swimming with young talent. In all seriousness,
it really is a metro situation at West Coast.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the opposite. So it is hard to come up with the young guns. Chess is the first rounder since Brander, who's left. Venom was the one before that, also retired. So I'm going to go with someone a little bit older, but I think someone who will make a bit of a name for himself this year in Jake Waterman. Not a very popular pick, I'm sure, for the opposition fans. I think he's a player that we've only sort of seen as the 4th or 5th most dangerous, if that, maybe 6th or 7th most dangerous in our forward line. Because he can play tall, but he can also play as like a running high half forward, and that's kind of the role he's played at AFL level. But my logic is now he's a bit more physically developed, and with no Jack Darling in that forward line, Oscar Allen also, in doubt as well. I think this guy's going to play more of as a stay-at-home forward, and he's stronger than his stats might suggest. I think he bats above his average in terms of being able to clunk high marks for a player that's not that tall. So, long story short, I think Jake Waterman could bob up and kick, 35, 40 goals for us this season, which would be welcome indeed.
He's got great mitts, Waterman.
He's a great kick.
He's deadly when he wants to be. Bit hot and cold, but if you can increase and improve his consistency, he'll be a big player for you this year. You mentioned Jared Brander there. He's gone off to GWS and kicked 5 goals in the scratch match grand final on the weekend. How much could you use a bloke like him at the moment with your list depth looking shallow?
I think it would help, but I'm far from convinced yet. I think he's scored a few cheapies from the reports I read. So I think it makes a nice headline, but and I didn't want Brandon to go like he wanted to go. So I would have kept him if I could, but is he better than Jake Waterman? I don't think so.
That's where our clubs are at. Let's move on to some new emerging contenders. Who do we see making the leap from maybe the 4th-ish spot or the top 8 up to maybe being in a grand final side? I'm going to throw it to the pair.
Anyone could challenge Melbourne in that grand final. They won't win it, but they'll challenge it. You could see a couple of surprises. I think Richmond could actually be one to have sort of like their last dance season. They could bounce back and maybe make the top 6, the top 4, and take it all away again. And I think that'll be a great sight for Victorian fans to see Richmond and Melbourne battle it out on the G on a Saturday afternoon for the granny. But if I'm actually honest, I'm thinking Sydney might actually take that leap. They've got a good young crop of players. They've still got that core talent there, and a couple of the older boys, Buddy, Joshy Kennedy. They're still going to deliver, and they're going to have a full season in New South Wales. They're actually going to play games at the SCG. They're going to get somewhat of a decent season, and they've got the young talent there. And I don't know, something tells me that they're going to be taking that leap. Port Adelaide, aren't they?
I am going to chime in because I was going to say Sydney. They've got the champion DNA. I was speaking to Doss a couple of weeks ago, and Sydney, they've just always been up there. How many grand finals have they been in since 2005? I can't even bloody count that high, mate.
3 or 4, yeah.
They're always there or thereabouts. They might drop down, but they bob back up. They know how to get there.
I think it's 5, actually.
Yeah, 2005, 2006, 2012.
12, 14 and 16.
There you go.
That's mental.
That many.
That's right. Drewzy can't count that high.
It's funny, last year I was talking to one of my mates who's a Swan supporter, and in my head I'm like, oh, you're a Swan supporter, you've seen so much success. And he goes, yeah, but I've seen more grand final losses than wins. And you forget that, like, as a Swan supporter who's seen a lot of success of their great side, they've also been through 3 heartbreaking grand final losses. So
Brett Deledio. But yeah, Josh Kennedy and Buddy Franklin are hungry boys to get that flag before they run off into the sunset. Where are the Brizzy Lions at? I think they're pretty safe to say are expected to take that next step up to the grand final. Who scares you more, Doss, Sydney or Brisbane?
Brisbane, for sure. I'm also aware, like, I know this gets said quite a little bit throughout the season and like in the previews and whatnot, but as a D supporter, it's not a foregone conclusion that the D's make it or even in the grand final per se, especially when you know how tight the seasons are and just what can unfold between now and then. It just wouldn't surprise me if Melbourne don't make it. We've seen some great teams with great list demographics over the last few years, like Collingwood probably should have featured in a couple more grand finals than what they did. Sydney throughout their little patch was similar. You go into the early 2000s and Essendon won a flag and it looked like they were going to win flag after flag and they couldn't after the 2000 grand final. So yeah, I'm sitting here sort of like as tense and as anxious as like I normally am. It does feel like we're playing with house money a little bit because we did knock it off last year, but I'm certainly not sitting here thinking it's just all done and dusted. But the Brisbane Lions, they look ominous with their midfield, with the power of their midfield and the age demographic, and your Berries and McGluggage is starting to really hit that 23, 24-year-old mark where they start to come into some career best footy. I'm a little worried about them without Hipwood. I don't think Mick Stay and like Fullerton or whoever else they chuck down there. Oh, well, yeah, Danaher's handy, but he's sort of a little bit inconsistent. And it's funny because when it's him and Hipwood who are inconsistent, like surely one of them gets up for a game. So you're sort of covering your losses there.
The old tab and a lob trade-off.
But with Hipwood out, I'm a little bit worried about, their forward line. But I think they're probably the team that, comes out and probably stakes their claim. What am I looking for here? I'm very curious to see how Port Adelaide and Western Bulldogs, and Geelong bounce back from devastating finals losses. I would be interested to see teams who lost finals by 10 plus goals, how they came back the following year and whether the maths suggests they came back stronger. Because I know for a fact when we got done by 10 plus goals in a prelim, we were second last the following year. So I'm really interested to see how Geelong, Dogs and Power bounce back, because some of those losses can really send sort of earthquakes through your footy clubs that last a period of time.
Richmond had that effect on clubs. Like, they beat Adelaide, sent them right down, and then did the same thing to GWS the following year.
Yeah.
Jesse, who are you reckoning?
Before I give you mine, I'll touch a little bit on Brisbane as well. I just want to add in, they've got so many good young players, like right about to hit their prime. You touched on McCluggage and Berry, but then there's also Zach Bailey, who I think has even more to offer at AFL level. Cam Rayner's obviously coming back as well, and someone I had locked and loaded that I've completely forgotten about. But there's just so many guys around that 22 to 23 age bracket, which I think is the most dangerous when you're looking at players who could jump up. So, big Brisbane fan.
Was it Dev Robb that you forgot? Devin Robertson?
No, but another
that's
very,
a great
very
shout.
good addition to that list, Drew. So, I think with them and along the Power, they've got just a lot of young guns who are about to take the next step. In teams that could bob up, this is a hard one. I've been spruiking up GWS a little bit. I think
Not a bad shout.
they need to... It's kind of a rough call, but I just think they have the firepower there, the ability, the proven ability. It's been a couple of years since that disappointing grand final. And I've been talking up Jesse Hogan's potential as well, which I know you'd love to see, Drew. But I think if he bobs up and kicks 40 goals, then you give the Giants a chance to make top four. But I think they're another club like so many that have terrible at restricting injuries for some reason. So that's their biggest threat. But I'll nominate them as a team that could, I think, win it in terms of the ability on their list.
GWS's best players are some of the best in the league. Like when we think about like Callie and Canelio and
Whitfield,
Toby Green and Whitfield. Oh my God. So like their best players are right up there with the best in the comp.
You're saying about Jesse Hogan and his potential. It's something to do with blokes called Jesse and having so much potential and then just self-decimating. So, let's hope we don't see that same trend follow with you, Jesse.
Are you referring to Jesse
keep True
Owens,
Footy
the
alive. No. Hashtag keep True Footy alive in the comments. We've gone for some surprise teams to leap up to the Holy Grail. But what about some sides that are going to hop into the top 8? Last year, me and Jesse did the first Drew Footy show. We did a surprise top 8. Jesse nominated Freo, and I rate that cool a lot. But I nominated Sydney, and I was happy with that prediction. I'm going to make the call that Sydney go up into the top 4. I'm going to go a bit of a bold one here. This could look terribly wrong at the end of the year, but I reckon Hawthorn are being slept on heavily to make the top 8 this year. Don't know what it is about them, but their last 5 last year, they obviously drew with the D's and the Tigers, so the last 2 premiers. They beat the Bulldogs and someone else I'm forgetting.
Brisbane.
So they've literally been mixing it with the best in the tail end of last season. I watched videos of them training, and they're doing like these warm-ups with their S&C, a very important component of training, I will add. And they're just so well drilled. Like, they are a great unit. They are one whole made up of many individuals, as we saw with Melbourne last year.
Gross.
But once you're all on the same page, you can really make a massive impact quarter to quarter. So I'm going to chuck Hawthorn in as my surprise top 8. Pearman, who do you reckon could shake a few heads with your opinion on who's going to make the top 8?
Well, I put my predictions out a week ago, and
it banged.
It's banged, but it's also because Carlton supporters are now liking me again because I've put them 7th.
Yeah, I rate that.
I've always loved Michael Voss. I think he was underrated at Brisbane. Didn't have the caliber of players I thought when he was coaching there, and almost had a dying list really. And now that he spent a few years at Port Adelaide. He's built a culture at Port Adelaide that's made it somewhat, well, as you said, like Hawthorn, well drilled. We're pretty consistent as a team, and he's had a fantastic relationship with the players, and just seeing what they've done over pre-season and the additions they've had in and the development they'll have from that 22-year-old plus age group. I just think they're primed to just surprise us all and finally put the doubters to bed, because the additions of Chera, they're going to have Walsh in some good touch towards the later part of the year. Obviously out injured. Paddy Cripps in Caden's special videos he's done looks fit and firing. And they're even going to have a fit and firing Charlie Curnow up forward with Mackay as well. So I think they're going to surprise a few, and they might even play Richmond at the G in that first elimination final.
I think you also have to factor in their recruits as well. Sometimes they need a couple of years to gel. I've certainly seen it at my own club, but you look at William Sard, Jack Martin, and obviously Chera as well. It's just come across George Hewitt, but I think those players have a lot more to offer, and once they gel, in addition to all the young elite talent like Wiedering, Mackay, the tall timber, Walsh. I think, Charlie Curnow's got a world of talent as well. So the recipe is there for a Carlton explosion, but every year we are a little bit let down, so we're not guaranteed.
My form on predictions is pretty good. I put Collingwood 17th last year and nailed that on the head. So
it is a rule that when we make these videos, if we ever make a good call, we have to drag it on for years.
100%.
Drewzy's done it.
You know what? I tipped Sydney to finish in the top 8 last year. Where'd you pick Freo to finish, Anthony?
Freo finishing 10th, just where they are every year for the last 10 years.
We've increased one ladder position every year since 2016, and we finished 11th. So yeah, we'll probably finish 10th. You're right. Rats. All right. Dosso, who do you see making the leap up to the top 8?
I like the Blues as well. I feel like they've just been sort of bubbling away for the last couple of years, and they're ready to hopefully take the next step, because I love the Carlton Footy Club elimination finals Sunday at the MCG style. I reckon that's when finals is at its best, when you get a cheeky MCG Sunday with a Melbourne team in it, and a team that's been craving success. And given the ladder positions, it could be an Essendon Carlton elimination final, first week of finals, and that would just be elite. But I also like the Saints a little bit. They popped up in 2020, COVID-affected year, so we weren't sure how much to take of that success. It's been a long time for the Saints. They sort of had the similar draft crop that the D's had. It was sort of 2014, 2015 when they got all their draft picks, and a lot's been sort of publicised about Paddy McCartan and a couple of other of their first round draft picks not quite working. But yeah, it's sort of now or never for the Saints. They're starting to get a little bit Carlton-ish. If it doesn't quite work with Rats, then I don't know where they go from here. So they've done the Moneyball tactic by just trying to trade people in, and it's got to start working now or never. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints finally make it click and jump up into the top 8.
All right, I disagree with both so far. Jesse, have you got anything better for me?
I don't know. When I was pondering this question, it's unlucky I went last, because I literally went Carlton, Hawthorn, St Kilda. I see the cases for all of those clubs. I think I'm most warm on the Hawks, actually, Drewzy. You really talked me into it there. And I think I really rate Sam Mitchell, being an Eagles fan, and the impact he had here. And then you got Sicily coming back, a really good young crop of players. And I feel like their first round draft pick Ward could come in and play a role straight away. And the way they ended the year last year as well, they knocked off the Dogs, they drew with Melbourne, and I feel like there was a handy performance somewhere else in there as well. But there's a recipe for a good season from the Hawks. I'm going to give you one that no one's mentioned.
Freo.
And, I'm going to cop shit for this regardless, and I'm going to say West Coast.
Oh.
I like it. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if West Coast are bottom 6, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're top 6. It's one of those seasons where it could go either way, and it would be either way it goes, it will be surprising.
Yeah, I think with this off-season, it's kind of, particularly in West Australia, that the media narrative on us is so negative, and, understandably so. There's been a lot of injuries, and, of course, the Pracky game went horribly. But we have this trend in recent years of bucking the expectations. So, if people expect us to go deep in finals. We are, are generally nowhere near it, and vice versa. When people write us off in 2018, we obviously won the flag, and it's happened in other years too. So I've just got this optimism with us, and I think a lot of injury woes are short term, other than Sheed. We'll get those players back in the first month, and I think it could be one of those years where we get better as we get on because we're adapting to a new game style. That's the most optimistic view. I'm not predicting us in our top 8, but I reckon we could make it, but I could also see us finishing bottom 4.
How big of an addition is Willie Rioli back into the side?
Oh, good by you. I think he's a really important player. People might have forgotten how good he is, but West Coast fans certainly haven't. I think we'll have to temper our expectations a little bit because he's coming off so long without football. And if we have an average year, then him being a forward centre player might not see a lot of it. But I think he's stupidly talented. I think he's as talented as Liam Ryan for sure, and we know how good Liam Ryan is. So it's a big plus for sure, and particularly for morale.
He is my least hated Eagle to watch. I do like watching Willie Rioli when he's on. Going from the potential successes of this season, I'm going to transition to the segment, the stinkers of the year. Now, this doesn't have to be the wooden spoon, lads. This could be the D's finishing in 9th. This could be the Bulldogs dropping out of the 8th. So this could just be any side that has been climbing and fallen down, or just a team that's going to Browntown, destination, dead. So I'm going to nominate West Coast after you've pumped up their tyres that whole time, Jesse. I just think the list, sort of age demographic profile sort of thing, along with the injuries that you've accumulated, it's just going to be another season where you find it hard to get some good traction. Jack Darling, I think, is one of your key players to make the side click, as well as Shuey. Shuey can't seem to play a month straight of footy at the moment. And I just really don't rate your sort of backup players when your stars drop out. Going on the trajectory that you were on last year, given that we just beat you by 97 points in the scratch match grand final, I'm predicting West Coast to be the stinkers of the year this year. So cop that.
Look, I don't really disagree with anything you said in isolation there. I just think it's just a case of when the narrative gets negative, it builds momentum, and now we're all kind of convinced that we're going to be terrible. I'm not really concerned about the injuries. I'm more concerned about the way we played last year. But if we tick that box, I don't think there's too much of a cap on our potential this year. I mean, not flag, but I think we could win a final.
Okay, fair enough. I don't like it. Caden.
I still have question marks over Bulldogs, Port and Geelong. Like, I want to see how one of those teams respond compared to what they dished up in the finals. Age demographic wise, I think Bulldogs and the Power probably have the best chance to respond. I dare not write Geelong off though. I just simply refuse to. That just screams karma to come back and bite me on the ass. But I think if Geelong don't make the 8 this year, then it's probably end of era time. I don't see that. I don't see that sort of dropping out of the 8 being a sort of quick road to success again. So a potential stinker, I'm not prepared to put a line through them, is that Geelong, don't make the 8 this year and their trajectory just changes for the worse.
Clearly no bias here. I've gone with West Coast. Caden's gone with Geelong, his least favourite club. I'm calling that Anthony's going to say Adelaide, but we'll get on to that. I said in my season predictions that I predicted Geelong I think I predicted them to finish about 5th, but they've definitely peaked, right? Like, they're the age demographic, our favourite term this video, of their squad. Like, they are past their prime as a list now. They should have won a flag by now. And when you have these sides that are in their primes, like the Bulldogs and Melbourne, it's going to be hard to sort of roll back the years and play your best footy again. I don't see Geelong winning a flag now. But, as you said, they could always just completely turn it around.
I hate writing teams off because, I'm just going to get ridiculed at the end of the year. You have your personal agenda with a team compared to your actual footy opinion and your footy brain. And combining all of that together, as much as I'd love to say Adelaide, I actually think they're going to improve a little bit, but they won't be a star-studded lineup. I actually do have Geelong. I put a line through them. I think they're done. I think
huge.
I've got them finishing 12th. I can't see where they'll find that next step. Still got their star-studded lineup. I think Hawkins and Selwood are at that age now where they could have a drop-off. Dangerfield hasn't had the impact he's had for a couple of years now.
How many more years do Port Adelaide have? Because they've got that young draft pool that they had a couple of years ago. But then you look at like Travis Boak, Robbie Gray, Charlie Dixon, they're all on the other side of 30. So how long do the Power have at like having a decent crack at it, do you think?
I think we've still got a couple of years. I do believe that this year and next year are definitely in that window. I don't think once we have that drop off, we'll have that bottom out and rebuild again. I think it'll be sort of like a transition year, sort of like what Sydney did. You know, they had that year where they weren't as great, 13th, 14th, and then bang, we were back in the top 6, top 4. Because I think we've got that prime group coming through. Rosie, Butters, Dersma, Marshall, and Georgiadis are going to hit their peak, and still got some young defenders as well. So I don't know. This is the first time this year I've actually gone in thinking, you know, whatever happens, happens. I don't care anymore. If we win the flag, I'll see you around for a 6-month tour. And if we lose, you won't see me for 6 months. So it's hard to judge. But to answer your question, I think Geelong will be the biggest downfall. But don't be surprised if Port Adelaide is. And I hate saying that.
This will be a real tell of Port Adelaide's character, because you've been, like, in 2020, you finished top. And then last year you finished in the top 4 again. So you're there or thereabouts. Can you maintain that? It's hard to stay in the top 4 for so long. So it's going to be a big year for Port. See where they're at. All right, Jesse, who's having a big stinker this year other than you if you quit YouTube?
This is tricky because, again, I'm going last, so I've got to pick one I don't really feel. I honestly think Geelong and West Coast are the two obvious ones. But the reason for that is because for them, what constitutes a stinker is they need to make finals. So if they slip out of that finals race, that's automatically a stinker. And I include West Coast in that, despite missing finals last year, having the mature list that we do have. If we're not playing to make finals, then what are we doing? So, if we finish ninth, that's a stinker. If Geelong finish ninth, that's a stinker. But I'm gonna go with it. Do you guys want a big call?
Go big call.
Don't say the Bulldogs again.
I've learned my lesson. I'm really trying to kiss ass this preseason and try and get back in their good books. In seriousness, I don't fully mean this one, but I'm going to nominate Sydney purely because the expectation on them, I think, has inflated so disproportionately, and that was because they looked so good at times last year, looked fantastic. But I think what happens with young teams sometimes is, a lot of pressure gets put on those younger guys to take the next step, and then I would also argue that they had probably the best game plan outside of Melbourne at times last year, and I reckon teams will go to work on that and look, how do we stop Sydney's ball movement, because they were the best team just about at moving the ball last year. So I reckon there'll be an oppo analysis, a bit of stagnation from a couple of players that you thought were going to come on. They'll probably do it the following season, but I'll say Sydney, I'm probably going to have them in my top 8 anyway, but I don't think they'll make top 4. I think there's a chance they miss.
Who's in a similar boat to that is actually Essendon.
I agree. Sydney and Essendon, they're two young lists that could have the plateau.
Yeah, I genuinely believe, and Sydney will probably have that transition year where they've been good, but they might back off a little bit and then just go for it. And same with Essendon. They could do either way. They could back off again, finish down in that 10th to 12th spot, or they could catapult into the top 4. And it's that type of season where we, as experts, generally have no bloody idea what's going to happen. And you know what? I wouldn't even write off Gold Coast, because even though Ben King's gone down, they look freaking unreal in that pracky
Put
match.
a line through the Suns.
They beat a very good team in a pracky match. And as Drewzy said, pracky matches mean everything.
We haven't even talked about Fremantle, as much as I hate it. Should we talk about them a little bit as a chance for definitely making finals? Because I think that's more fair.
Well, go on then. What do you make of Freo?
Sarong.
I think you can't ignore the potential. I think, the Brayshaw and Sarong, we know how good they are. I think some of the younger defenders as well that have come in, Hayden Young in particular is a guy I think really adds a new dimension to that back half. And I think in the forward line, we talked about Switkowski, but I think the addition of both him and Schultz gives your forward line a bit of a different look. I know you don't really have the tall timber or the goal scoring power, and I think that's what's going to ultimately hold you back again this year. But those guys with their pressure and their ability to find the goal every now and then, Fremantle could definitely bob into the 8. I'm sure. Didn't you predict them to make the 8, actually?
I did. I picked them to go 8th on the dot.
There you go.
So see if we squeeze in. It'll be good to see Josh Tracy step up this year, because apparently he didn't play in the practice match because he was too fatigued from training too hard. That's the type of bloke he is. He's an absolute bull. Not scared of anything, sprint through packs. His attack on the ball is absolutely fearless. Josh Tracy's an absolute gun. Got him in the rookie draft as well. Our defence, it's just a matter of staying fit. I say this all the time, but we always seem to have crucial injuries, which is annoying. But yeah, Jordan Clark with that run-off half back is going to be beautiful to see. Hayden Young with that booming left boot. Luke Wright and Brennan Cox are a dynamic duo back there. And then you got Alex Pearson, Joel Hamling as the lockdowns, not even mentioning Nathan Wilson, Ethan Hughes, a few others down there. So our list depth is probably the best it's been since, I reckon, about 2014, to be honest, 2015. So happy times. I think we're on the up for sure.
That's a low bar, Drews.
David Mundy, he's that good in his late 50s. Do you reckon Matthew Pavlich and Peter Bell are thinking about coming back? Or
we could use Pav up forward, to be fair.
I was going to say, there's still a spot up full forward.
With David Mundy, he's said that he's going to continue playing for as long as he's contributing to the club. And last year he was right up there on our BNF, just about an All-Australian. He's doing all the right things, mate. I love David Mundy. All right, let's get on to the two big hitters of the season. The Brownlow, the best prayer, and the premiership. So Brownlow, premiership. I'm going to go to you, Jesse, because I've gone to you the last few times. So I'll give you the cream of the crop first pick.
Oh man, I was like, finally, I have time to think. Grand final. You know what? I'll go with the Drewzy. I think Melbourne is the best team, but you know, I never like to just pick who I think because that's probably going to be wrong anyway. I'll go a Brisbane Port Adelaide grand final. Try that for size. I just genuinely believe in the ability of both of these clubs, both now, but also the upside. Like, you know, we talked about those Brisbane youngsters, but Port Adelaide, Zach Butters, I think he has the potential to be one of the best players there. You know, we know about Dersmer and who was the third one? Rosie, that's right. And, you know, I just think there's a lot of upside in that under 22 age bracket, and I think that's what's going to make them dangerous this year. So unlike you, Perry, I don't think they're in danger of dropping off, to be honest. If anything happens like that, it'll be kind of unforeseen from my perspective. And yeah, you know, my thoughts on Brisbane. So I'm going to go with the first interstate grand final since, West Coast and Sydney maybe.
And who's going to win that one?
Brisbane.
Oh,
sorry, I'll just say Brisbane.
You pathetic. You know what? Stay off YouTube.
Come on, man.
Brutal. And what about the Brownlow, Jesse?
This is hard. Like, you can just throw a blanket over a lot of elite players. A couple of I'll go a draw. I'll go Bontempelli draws with Jack Steele. How's that?
Yeah. Nice. All right, I'll chime in now because I'm just going to say Jack Steele. I think because he's like clearly the best player on St Kilda's list. He's the captain, so he's expected to play every week. And he puts the team on his back every week. Gets 3 votes just about every week or every other week. So I reckon this is Jack Steele's year to win it. And I will go with what I think, because what I think is always right. I reckon the D's go back to back. You can't write them off after running through the finals the way they did last year. It was a cakewalk, as Collingwood fans would say. Light work for the D's. I reckon they'll go back to back, play the grand final against Port and beat them. Sorry, Anthony.
When did this become just bully me?
Oh, sorry that we picked your team for runners up. What did you say about my club?
Joss, do you think the D's will go back to back?
I never back them in for anything, but I feel like if there was ever a time to tip your own team for a grand final, it'd be just ludicrous for me not to take this opportunity. So I am going to back the D's in. I think when you put the qualifying final away by 30 points, prelim away by almost 90, and then the grand final away by about 75, that's 12 goals teams have to improve by in 12 months to take it off you. And I'm sort of bullish that this Melbourne Footy Club aren't resting on their laurels, and they're at least attempting to and putting the work in to go another gear shift up. Don't quote me on that, Pearman, in the F1s. But we've gear shifted up, I believe. Put it in neutral, put in the clutch. Anyway, so I'm hoping that we've improved this preseason, because I think if we rock up and play the way we played last year, it's not going to happen. We need to improve and adapt and go one more. So yeah, I'm going to back the D's in. I think the grand final will be against the Lions. I think 2 young sides going at it will just be super exciting. And then this could be biased. Well, it is biased. It's not even, it could be. But in my my season predictions on my channel, I said Clayton Oliver. It just appears as if he's tearing up the track. As you hear in every D's interview, he's lost a bit of weight. He's a little bit lighter, and he won the Coaches Association award last year. I personally believe if he was a little bit more liked in the football world, it sounds like he's a bit of a smart aleck on the field and whatnot, then he would be
getting more votes from the umpires.
Yeah, potentially, and just potentially a little bit more sort of recognised in the football world. But that's just my opinion anyway. I think he sort of slept on a little bit. But Clayton Oliver, I think, could take home the Charlie at the end of the year.
So you've gone D's and Clayton Oliver. I'm going to change my picks to Freo and David Mundy for the Brownlow.
Back it in.
Pear Man.
Look, I've taken a beating in these predictions.
Oh, please.
I'm sick of it. You know, I changed my mind. We're not dropping off. We're going to open the DRS and fly past the Ds. Right, we're a bit of F1 term for you all. Open the DRS, fly past the Ds. I think we're going to win the premiership. And, get stuffed, Oliver. Get stuffed, Jack Steele. Ollie Wines has gone back-to-back in the Brownlow.
Wow.
I did have Jack Steele, but you know what? It's time to get a bit biasness here.
He's on the back foot here.
I'm sweating a little bit.
The footy content will be flying out of the Caden MacDonald channel, and that's about it, I reckon. Because I reckon we're all just about done. The Pair, where are you at with content creation this year? What have you got going on?
Look, I've been hard at work. The behind the scenes at Pair HQ has been hard at work. A lot of notepads have been written and used. A lot of videos have been pre-recorded, which has never been done before. Mentally and physically good at the moment. So we're bubbling away. A lot of expectation for Port this year. So hopefully everyone comes along the ride. It's our 25th anniversary in the AFL as well. So a lot of special guests maybe and a lot of big videos to come throughout the season, along with all the reviews, previews and heartache and the cheer that comes with being a Port Adelaide fan.
A motivated man, I like it. From one motivated man to another. Jesse.
Hey, buddy.
Are we back?
Yeah, sure, buddy.
And Caden, he's just going to be tripling in size in the next 12 months as well. So, happy days. What have you got involved in store for us this year, Caden?
Tripling in size. And also, yes, YouTube.
I'm tripling in size hearing about it.
I'm bad at those jokes. I'll leave those to you boys. But heaps happening, Drews. Obviously, we teased a little bit on the Drewzy yarn that big things are happening. I'm on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. I'm pumped. So, really excited to rip in this year.
Hell yeah. Just a bunch of boys making content, having a laugh, talking footy. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on and giving me your time, lads. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure, never a chore. So thanks for coming on the channel.
No worries. Thanks for having us, Drews.
Drews, thanks
you
mate. So much. It's been so much fun. I
appreciate you, Anthony. I'll see you at May 21st.
I can't wait, mate.
Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a like, drop a sub. Get your predictions down in the comments below. Abuse the creator who annoyed you the most in the comments down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, you plonkers.